Hi, I hope you're doing well. This is part 2 of Lady of the Holy Land, and we're going to get straight to it. We're going to only read one sentence, and we're going to dive deep into it. She is the queen of the four corners of the universe. As a matter of fact, let's read more. In the ancient goddess religion, the cross is used often to point to the four corners of the universe. This is also a known symbol in the New Testament. Now, we're talking about Hathor here. So, let's do Hathor and Venus connection. Hathor, the Egyptian goddess of love, beauty, and music, is connected to Venus, the Roman goddess of love and beauty, through a shared association with love, fertility, and pleasure. The Greeks identified Hathor with their goddess of love, Aphrodite, and this identification was carried over by the Romans, who saw Hathor as their version of Venus. Both deities embody concepts of beauty, pleasure, and celebration, and their roles as goddesses of love and joy make them analogous figures across different mythologies. So, as you can see here, the Roman goddess Venus is based off of Aphrodite, and Aphrodite is just the Greek version of Hathor. Now, let's go ahead and let's talk about the symbol of Venus. What does this symbol look like to you? This kind of reminds me of a certain symbol, which is the Ankh, right? The Ankh symbol, which we all know the Egyptian Ankh represents life, right? So let's go to the symbol of Inanna, right? Doesn't this look like the compass rose? Why do they call it a compass rose? Maybe it's because it has something to do with the rose of Venus that I keep telling you guys about. As we can see, compass rose and pentagram connection. Look at that. That's the compass rose with the pentagram on top, overshadowing it. So, as you can see, the big old pentagram that's right in our face, only one is aligned, and that's the north. So, it's leading to the north. Now, when we're talking about the north, we have to talk about the Egyptians. Why? Because we're talking about Hathor, right? So, what is the northern star? Let's see. Northern star in ancient Egypt. It says the ancient Egyptians referred to the North Star as Thuban, located in the constellation Draco. So, the dragon constellation, right? Who represents the dragon in Egypt? Well, let's find out, shall we? Wajet is an ancient Egyptian goddess known as the protector of Lower Egypt and the pharaoh. She was most famously depicted as a cobra, and her symbol, the uraeus, is the rearing cobra that appears on the crowns of pharaohs. Wajet was also worshipped as a lioness or lion-headed woman, and was seen as the protector of kings, guarding them and their lands from harm. So as we can see, she is the uraeus as well. You can also see that she was worshipped as a lioness, right? Didn't we just see out of our peripheral Inanna symbol being a lion? We can also see how this connects to the Draco constellation, because if we take a look at Wajet and Draco constellation, connection, it says the Egyptian cobra goddess Wajet is connected to the constellation Draco through ancient Egyptian astronomy, where the constellation was seen as a serpent or crocodile representing various gods/goddesses, including those who protected the sun's path. Now, is Hathor related to Wajet? Let's find out, shall we? Wajet and Hathor connection. Well, isn't this lovely? Wajet and Hathor are connected through a shared association with the Eye of Ra, both being personifications of this destructive yet protective force. They also have ties to the Milky Way and the concept of a great mother goddess, with Hathor being a major deity who could embody various aspects, including protection and destruction. Additionally, they are linked by their roles as protectors, particularly the uraeus cobra of Wajet appearing on the head of the sun god and sometimes associated with Hathor's headdress. So, all of these different connections leading to the north. All of these different connections leading back to the dragon. The four corners of the universe. What if the four corners of the universe is the four corners of the earth? Because the same depiction that you see with Venus is the same depiction that you see with Tiamat. Let's take a look at this. Because in Babylonian mythology, Tiamat is based off of a sea monster. In ancient Mesopotamian mythology, Babylonian, Mesopotamian is still a Babylonian creation story. It says Tiamat is a primordial goddess and the personification of the sea salt. Okay? The salt sea. It says her name comes from the Akkadian word for sea. Tiamat is a complex figure who embodies the chaotic potential. Remember that. Chaotic potential of the cosmos and predates the gods. She's known for her role in the Babylonian creation story, Enuma Elish, where she's often portrayed as a villainous force. So she's a villain. If I ask Tiamat and Draco constellation, if I do that connection, will they give me something? I'm pretty sure they will. The constellation Draco is connected to the Babylonian dragon goddess Tiamat. Now we're getting somewhere. Because they are both associated with primordial chaos and creation myths. In one myth, Tiamat was defeated by the god Marduk. Bullshit. I can smell bullshit from a mile away. And then it says, who split her body into two to create the sky and the earth. Now, who created the sky and the earth, ladies and gentlemen? The Most High. We all know that this is the Most High story. This is not the story of Marduk, and we could be able to see in the Tanakh that these two gods are distinct from one another. They are not the same God. As a matter of fact, let's go there. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 2. It says, declare ye among the nations, and publish, and set up a standard. Publish, and conceal not. Say Babylon is taken. Bel is confounded. Let me repeat that. Bel is confounded. Who is Bel? Bel is Marduk. Bel is confounded. Merodach is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded. Her images are broken in pieces. So as you can see, Bel is confounded and broken in pieces. Let's see Isaiah 46, right? Verse 1. What does it say? Bel boweth down. Nebo, right? Nebo. Who is Nebo? Who is Nebo? That's Bel's son, Nabu. Okay? Nabu is the god of scribes, right? Whom I believe is the specific Lucifer in Isaiah 14, but we'll get to that in another video. Nebo stoopeth their idols, were upon the beasts and upon the cattle. Your carriages were heavy loaden. They are a burden to the weary beast. So as you can see, there's a distinction here. Bel is just an idol. So they decided to use the idol, the pagan idol, for the story of the Most High. So the god Marduk didn't do shit. He didn't do anything. Now, let's go back to what we were talking about, which is Tiamat, okay? And the connection to the Draco constellation. If the Egyptians are worshiping Tiamat, if they are worshiping the Draco constellation, especially when it comes down to Thuban, which used to be the North Poling star, then what does that say? What does that say about Egypt as a whole? You have the Uraeus, this serpent, everywhere with these major gods. You have the serpent, and then you also have the Ankh. The Uraeus is almost in every depiction of almost every single major god in the Egyptian pantheon. So does the Ankh. So are we just going to sit here and ignore the worship of the Draco constellation? Because we could be able to see this in context too, when it talks about the dragon in the Hebrew scriptures. Y'all think I'm lying? Psalms 91 verse 13. You shall tread upon the lion and adder. Wasn't we just talking about the lion? Who does the goddess actually symbolize? She symbolizes the lion, right? According to Egypt, Wajet represents a lion head. But let's keep going. You shall tread upon the lion and adder. The young lion and the dragon shall you trample under feet. Do you hear that? Now, let's go to Isaiah 27:1. In that day, the Lord with his sword And great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Which sea is he talking about? The primordial sea. He slayed the dragon, right? Which is Tiamat, the chaotic sea monster, right? Leviathan. Isaiah 51:9. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake, as in the ancient days, in the generations of old. Are you not it that have cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? Who is Rahab? Well, let's find out. Who is Rahab in Isaiah 51? In Isaiah 51, Rahab is a symbolic name for a chaotic sea monster or the power of Egypt. So we're talking about something that has to deal with Egypt, including the chaotic sea monster. This is the same Egypt that is actually representing the northern star Thuban, which is inside the constellation of the dragon. And then it says, representing the forces of chaos that God defeated at creation and through the Exodus. He defeated the pagan power. He defeated the dragon because that's what the Egyptians were worshiping. That's all they were worshiping was the dragon, the so-called great mother, right? You're worshiping a constellation and a star. Star worship is huge in pagan religions. Worshiping the creation instead of the creator gets you nowhere. As you can see, it gets you nowhere but deception and lies. So now we know how this connects. Okay. Why is Tiamat important still? Why is Venus? What does Venus have to do with all of this? Right? Why Venus? Well, that's a good question. The connection between Tiamat and Inanna is one of mythological overlap in evolution, with scholars suggesting Tiamat's character was partly influenced by earlier Sumerian goddesses like Inanna. Do you hear this? The connection is also seen in how Inanna, in her more chaotic and violent aspects, was sometimes associated with the primordial chaos dragon Tiamat. But Inanna represents Venus, though. It says one source notes a mythological lineage, with Tiamat listed as Inanna's great grandmother. Now, let me tell y'all something right now. There's a lot of other beliefs when it comes to Inanna and Tiamat too, saying that Inanna is a transfiguration of Tiamat herself. So, based off of this overlap in evolution, we could be able to see that Inanna and Tiamat has some type of connection with each other, identifying as the same goddess. This matters a lot. Okay? The reason why it matters is because when we're talking about Venus, now we know why we're paying attention to Venus the whole entire time. When I tell you about the Rose of Venus and how it represents the pentagram, now you know why. Now you know why they pay attention to Venus in her 8-year cycle, right? Here's the thing about it. Tiamat and Venus connection. Now, see, I didn't even look this up yet. So if there's no connection between Tiamat and Venus, then that will be highly surprising, right? It probably won't even be a direct connection. But just for shits and giggles, let's just see. Well, I'll be damned. The connection between Tiamat and Venus is indirect, rooted in the Mesopotamian goddess Ishtar, the Assyrian form of Inanna, and her association with both Venus and a lineage leading back to Tiamat. It says Ishtar / Inanna was identified with Venus, the morning and evening star. And this connection was further linked to Tiamat as a primordial goddess who, in some interpretations, was later associated with Ishtar and Venus. The myth of Marduk slaying Tiamat and creating the heavens from her body was also linked to the cycle of Venus. Are y'all hearing this? Which disappears below the horizon and returns, symbolizing a rise from the underworld. Wow, just wow, right? Now we understand. Why does the word zodiac important? Because remember, when you're talking about the zodiac wheel, you're talking about something that rotates around the north, right? What's our North Pole right now that we call our North Pole? Polaris, right? There was no bear constellation in ancient Egypt. I just want y'all to know that. So Polaris is a modern day thing. Stars rotating around Polaris. If stars don't rotate around Polaris, then what do you call this? Look at how the sky spins. This is your zodiac wheel, right? So let's just look up the word zodiac in etymology. Now look at this, right? We have sign of the zodiac, right? Look at this. Doesn't this look like Zion? Zoion means animal, right? To live. Now this was interesting right here. The very last paragraph, it says, in Old English, the zodiac was 12th Tacna, the 12 signs. And in Middle English, also Our Lady's Way and the girdle of the sky. Look at that. The girdle of the sky. Now watch this. If I put girdle of the sky, what will I get? The belt of Venus. You see how all of this shit relates back to Venus? What does the belt of Venus look like? You see the belt of Venus right here? That's what the color of the belt of Venus look like. And then they show you with images. So this pink horizon line right here is pretty much the belt of Venus. So just to let you know, the word zodiac in the Middle Ages actually meant the belt of Venus. Very, very interesting, huh? Now, a lot of y'all people believe that God represents the North Pole, right? A lot of you flat earthers out there believe that God represents the North Pole, which is the magnetic north, which is in the center of the flat earth. And I'm letting y'all know right now that the Most High is bigger than that. The Most High is an outside sound source. But the spirit of the Most High is what we have. And it's what the earth has too. It's one big ass donut. And we all know it as the Taurus field. Right? And we could see in context. We could see this in context. We could see this in the Tanakh. Zechariah chapter 12, verse 1. Right? It says, the burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith the Lord, which stretched forth the heavens and layeth the foundations of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. So the Most High formed the Taurus field. This is why the Most High can read our hearts, right? The source of the Taurus field is the heart. That's why you could be able to see the heart in many depictions of our Taurus field. This is how the Most High connects to us. It's through the spirit. This is the reason why the Most High can't be limited to one thing, especially the North Pole. When you take a look at the Hebrew cosmology, you can see that the sky is opened up, right? And you can see that it is still in the magnetic north, but the sky opened up, meaning this is past one heaven, reaching into another heaven. Meaning it doesn't have anything to do with a constellation. It has everything to do with going past this realm called Earth. It never gave us a constellation to worship. So with that being said, all praise, honor, and glory goes to the Most High and Him alone. And happy Shabbat. Shalom.